Hello, this is David. I'm going to take you along today while we fix some railing. I've got railing, wrought iron fences in the backyard. They have pickets that are 2 inches on center, roughly 6 feet tall, and about 6.5 feet wide, 7 feet wide, something like that. The bottoms of them, I'll show you here. They've been buried in the dirt and mulch for a while, and after a long time they start to look either like this. Let me get this for you. Either start looking like this, or maybe just rotted out like this. Some ends aren't too bad, but where the mulch has been up against it, they get rotted out pretty bad. Some of these survive pretty well as long as there's not mulch and dirt up against the bottom of the railing. Hopefully when we're done, we'll have something that looks more like this. Primed, ready for paint, but new tube on the bottom here. These are all primed. These have been finished down this row here, but the important part in all of this is making sure that the bottom of your fences are cleared out and you're not letting mulch and dirt get up into it. So in order to work on it, I've brought it over here and set it up on a homemade rack. That way the bottom is up off the ground. And we'll take a stab at cutting off all the bad stuff here and then welding on a new tube for the bottom, and hopefully that should fix it. So anyway, stick around. I got some time lapse that I'll do, and also show you some of the processes in fixing back gate fencing. All right, so we got all the bottom rail cut off here, and the bottom of each picket has been prepped. In prepping all of these, I did find one that has too much damage, and so we're going to be replacing that one. We're going to cut off this picket at the bottom and stitch on a new bottom end to it. I did have one here also where the grinder cut into it a bit right there, and I'll just weld that up, add some metal when I'm welding. All right, let's get this one cut off over here. I found it a bit easier to have at least 2 or 3 inches here. If it's too short, it's too hard to weld everything on and use a magnet to line everything up, so I'm gonna probably cut off 3 or 4 inches. Square tubing, when it comes from the mill, it's got an oil on it, as they roll it and then weld it down this side here. You got to make sure you clean it up. Get all that oil residue off before you try and paint it, and it's easier to weld with all that stuff off of it too. So clean it up real good first. Grab a measurement for your opening, 91.5. Take off a 1/2 inch for the mounting brackets on either side. And just a little bit of free play in there. Like that. Measure twice, cut once. And clean up the ends of the cut. Then we'll measure up here and mark out where each of the pickets is going to go. And we start a 1/2 inch in and mark every 2 inches for where the pickets will be welded on to the base tube. The next step is to fit up the bottom rail 62.5 inches from the top rail and get it in place so you can tack weld both ends. Not in the plan. This. Okay. We'll go right there. It's just a 1/16 under 68.5. So let's take a look at what we're going to weld with here. I just have a simple Amazon Thulium TL 200M, and I do have a C25 mix here. C25? Yeah, C25. And I do about 20 or so on the flow rate. Just because we're outside and there's a little bit of a breeze sometimes. I think I might be able to get away with just a little less, but out here with a little breeze, I put it at about 20 on the flow rate for this. Let's get this fired up and get these things tacked in and then finish welding out this bottom rail. Alright, we're all set up here. This is MIG with shielded gas here. We've got the Thulium set up, running it off of just 110 here. It's turned all the way up to 162. And this is DC electrode positive is the way it's set up here. I have my ground, a magnetic ground that's sitting down over there. And we'll get this end tacked up and then go tack up the far end. Just under 168.5. Now the next step is to brace the middle and pull it up so that it's also the same distance. You can see behind me there's a big bow in the top. As it was welded out the first time, all the heat on that bottom side of the top rail caused an arc, and we need to make sure that we pull that middle section together. Hopefully it'll all flatten out. If not, at least it'll all have the same arc. But we can't have this big a gap in the middle. Let's take care of that. And looking more closely at this one that I nicked, I can see it's not doing very well. I'm actually going to take the bottom of this picket out as well. So let's go ahead and take it out, and then we'll have 2 pickets to replace. We'll do that next. For now, let's get this out of here. All right, so let's get to replacing these 2 pickets here. All right, the next step is forming the bottom of that picket so that it is flattened out. This is a little guillotine press that I made to flatten out the ends of the pickets to match the stuff that's already there. That was cool. Perfect. And we'll just measure it up and cut it to length. Right about there. Well, I'm sure there are people that can do it better, but that'll work for me. And then get the bottom done. Boy, it welds so much better with new metal, clean metal on each side. The old stuff with a little bit of rust and scale and all that sort of stuff, it just doesn't weld as nice. But we'll go back through, wire brush everything, clean it up, and see if we can't get everything to look a little bit more like this. Finish up one more picket and we'll be done for a little painting with primer and just about done with it. All right, 2 new pickets in place. One there and one over here. And you can see, boy, the welds on those just go so much easier with new metal. But just tacked in place here. I'm going to go down the row now, finish tacking everything out, welding everything out, and we'll come back, wire brush it, and be ready for some primer. All right, here we go. All right, well, we have all the pickets welded out. Pretty ugly, but with some paint left on there and rust at the bottom of the pickets and other things. The beads don't go down very smooth, and I have to go back sometimes 2 or 3 times to make sure that there's no undercuts or holes in the picket that would allow water in. And so now next step is going to be just hit some of those places that have a little bit of rust. Just hit it with some of this and then some metal primer for the new tube on the bottom. We'll get after that, get going. For my last step here, I'm just going to put some metal primer on the bottom tube that may not have gotten any of that overspray from the Rust-Oleum spray paint. I also want to do the very bottom section here. All right, well, here's the last shot here for today with the pickets welded out onto the new tube and some primer. We'll go ahead and hang this one up back on the row here, and as soon as I get one more done here, I'll probably go in with a final coat of paint on this half of the yard that has already had the bottom tubes repaired. So I think that's it for now. See you later.